right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Patterson Report podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. And we are 24 hours away, a little bit less, 23-20 away from the Eagles season opener. One of the bigger season openers I can remember. Obviously, you're coming off a Super Bowl, which has only ever happened twice. You're the first game of the season, kicking it off on Thursday night, and it happens to be against Dallas. Like I said, I can't think of a bigger season opener in my time as an Eagle fan. Maybe the only exception being after the first Super Bowl when you see the banner drop, but I don't remember if we've started that next year home or not.
I don't remember. I don't think it was a thing back then, but you were right about the 24 hours. We got 24 hours to the Frisbee dog come out at halftime. There we go.
I did see that. That is almost as exciting. And the way this game could go, it could be the highlight.
They're iconic, but yeah, it could be the highlight because this game it might get out of hand pretty quick. I mean, sure, we played Dallas twice last year and they didn't have Dak either time, and Dak kind of, has a history of getting to us, but this is with Vic Fangio, an improved defense, so I think it's going to be, an easy one, I hope.
I'm with you to a degree. I think, obviously, Vic Fangio has earned our blind support. I'm not sure if we can call this an improved defense.
It's not, but it's improved from when I'm trying to say it's improved from when Dak played it.
Okay.
It's a downgrade. Yeah. It's a downgrade from last year, but an upgrade from 2023 prior when Dak has shredded us.
Yes, it's the best Eagle defense that Dak has seen. I will for sure agree with you there. It's definitely a step down from last year, and I'm not sure if you've seen some of the rumors that have come out, because the game is tomorrow and we don't have a concrete answer as to who is starting on the back end of the defense. But there has been some reporting today. Why do I think it was Eagles Nation or a reputable enough Eagles account? We'll put it that way. That looks like Adoree Jackson somehow, surprisingly, and Sidney Brown seem to be the two names that are going to get the start on Thursday. I know you and I and Aiden all seem to think that it would definitely be Bennett, and then Makuba's health was in question, so it probably wasn't going to be Makuba week one, but I'm very surprised that Jackson's the one getting the start.
Yeah, Jackson surprised me. Sidney Brown, not so much. Makuba was going to take a couple of weeks. He's a rookie second rounder. No need to rush him. You have playoff aspirations. You don't have to rush him in. But this, I don't want to say this is like a must-win game, because it kind of feels like it with how hard the schedule is this year. You got to get the easy ones.
Yeah.
And this is one of those easy ones. They're 8.5-point favorites. I could see them covering pretty easily. I know that might be a little bit of a trap because they might target that CB2. I know Quinyon Mitchell in the offseason, there was rumors of him being able to travel across the field. I don't know if they're going to stick to that or they're just going to stick him on one side of the field. But if that's the case, the right side of the field, Adoree Jackson, I mean, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are going to get to him out there, it feels like. And I don't have quite a good feeling about that. I think maybe Bennett will be ramped up as a starter, but Adoree Jackson, it seems like he won the job. So I don't know.
Yeah. And, we were talking last week with Aiden, obviously, about, the strengths of each team. And if there's an area that you wouldn't want the Eagles to be weak, it is that CB2 spot, because one of the few strengths of Dallas, one of the only places they can really hang with Philly position for position, is on the outside. I mean, going out and getting George Pickens, that gives them, a bona fide number two option, number one on a lot of teams. You figure, I'm kind of with you. I tend to think that, especially given how soft the CB2 spot is, I think Quinyon's going to try to travel with CD as best he can. But even so, I mean, I don't love the idea of George Pickens and Adoree Jackson going head-to-head all night. I think that's one that we lose more often than we win, at least based on what we've seen out of Adoree in the preseason. So I'm very surprised that he got the start. The only thing I can wrap my head around is that it's just, the value of reps in the system, and that he, has a 4-week head start on Bennett in that regard. But I mean, from what I've seen from the two of them play, I thought there was a huge talent gap between the two.
Yeah, and CeeDee Lamb, I was just looking it up. His slot percentage was 55% 2 years ago and went down to 29%. I think that's because the Cowboys lost their perimeter receiving threats. So we might see a lot of Quinion following Pickens and then Coop on CeeDee Lamb. So
that'd be your dream scenario. But I mean, if you're Dallas, I don't care how good he plays in the slot. If I'm looking at this Eagles secondary and I have my choice of Q, Coop, or Adoree Jackson, I'm putting CD wherever Adoree Jackson is. I'm going to force you're going to force Q to travel, which will be his first year doing it, or force him on Adoree Jackson. There's no way I'm giving us that cop out and put him in the slot.
I think you got to let Q travel. And,
I'm with you.
If he travels and they try to use CD inside, say 30, 35% of the time, that'll just go to Coop. It'll be fine. And then Quinion's got to follow him on the outside. Pickens is going to get a couple of snaps on Adoree Jackson no matter how you cut it. It's going to happen. I don't think CD Lamb's going to, but I don't know how Vic Fangio's going to operate. It's going to be interesting to see.
And one of the things I like about Vic that, going back, Schwartz won a Super Bowl in Philly, and I thought he put together a very good defense with what he was given at the time, which if you look back at that defense compared to this defense, the talent's not even close. My biggest beef with him was that stupid fence coverage when he would keep everything in front. I hated it. Now, in this instance, if Adoree Jackson's going to spend a noteworthy amount of time opposite George Pickens, that might become my strategy for that matchup in particular, is just tell Adoree to keep everything in front, don't fall for a double move, because it's not like there's great help behind you. Like we just said, Reed Blankenship's a captain this year. He's rock solid in the secondary. But you're going to have a relatively inexperienced safety back there too. So it's not like you can lean on CJ GJ to come over the top and read the ball. Sidney Brown does a few things well. None of them are pass coverage. So, I mean, there's really not that safety blanket. And if I'm Vic, I'm telling Adoree to keep everything in front of you. And we'll, just hopefully wear him out. But because there's very little help over the top. And something tells me as great as Q is, he's going to have his hands full with CeeDee Lamb, especially if he has to travel. So Reed's going to be busy.
Yeah. What was it? Was it 4th and 19 or 3rd and 18 against the Titans?
Oh my God.
What's called sticks and they lost the game.
Yes. It's fucking stupid.
That one always sticks with me for some reason. I don't know what it was about it. It wasn't even a super important game. It was a regular season game against the Titans. It just sticks with me, but just like the Sticks defense. But I totally get your point. The thing is, Howie might have a trade up his sleeve. I know Jacorian Bennett was a minor trade. He's going to have so many picks. Maybe he schemes up something, but it's just so unlikely that a corner trade happens midseason that it might be the stampede of people of Jacorian Bennett, Adoree Jackson, and then Keely Ringo maybe, even though the offseason was kind of rough to him.
Really well for
might
him.
be kind of like a rotating door at CB2, which I really don't like.
I think our best case scenario is that Jacorian Bennett eventually gets the reps and shows in practice that he's your CB2 and he takes over that role. That's my prayer. Because on the roster, I think he's the closest thing you got to, somebody who you can leave one-on-one and not worry about.
Yeah, it might be a rough night for the one side of the field if Q doesn't travel. Yeah,
it could be. The Eagles have to put up some points. Say what you will about Dallas, and I don't think they're going to be a very good football team this year. Defensively, they're going to be a dumpster fire, especially now. I think Rashawn Gary is a very good player. It just doesn't equal what they gave up.
You mean Kenny Clark?
Kenny Clark, yeah, sorry.
Well, they got to keep Rashawn Gary in that trade somehow. I know. I thought they should have traded Rashawn Gary, but Jerry didn't ask for him. Jerry wanted that defensive tackle.
That's insane.
Good old Jerry.
But offensively, they're going to put up points. They're a pretty talented offensive team. The O-line could be better, but the receiving core is good. Dak's a good quarterback. They're going to put up points. So the Eagles are going to have to match that, and their defense, at least week one, won't really be able to bail them out if the offense starts slow.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what we talk about this CB2, but I'm interested to see what like Moro Ojomo gives us in, sort of a full-time role. Felix Hunt as well in a starter role. I'm interested to see what these guys contribute because obviously they were fantastic in the Super Bowl run and limited snaps, but I want to see what they do on a full-time basis. So that's another thing I'm keeping my eye on with this defense. And is Jeremiah Trotter the second linebacker for tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, Trotter
Jahad Campbell needs some time as well. The medicals, we knew that coming in from the draft. So it'll be interesting to see how these new starters do. Obviously, they lost a lot of defensive talent, but there's the better football team.
Yeah, and I think to your point, they lost it in places where it was replaceable. I mean, look, Milton Williams was a stud. He had a huge breakout year. He got paid, and he should have got paid. No problem there. I also agree with not paying him because you saw who Moro Ojomo could be, and you're hearing reports from very respected guys. I mean, everybody on that O line is all pro caliber. So when I hear our O-line guys saying, like, look, this dude's going to be a problem, he gives me all I can handle, and you're hearing those kind of reports about Ojomo, that I take that to heart because, the way this team operates, Vic Fangio is brutally honest. I mean, we saw that with the CB too. I mean, he would tell us very clearly these guys aren't cutting it. So when he praises a guy, when the O-line praises a guy like you're hearing with Ojomo, I don't think the Super Bowl is an aberration. I think he's that good. And remember last year, Jalix Hunt did kind of get extended run. I mean, we didn't have BG for a time. We didn't have Dean for a time. So, I mean, he did kind of become a premier edge rusher for the Eagles. And, throughout the playoffs, he was a problem. Again, Super Bowl on an extreme heater. He had a great Super Bowl. But I think both of those guys are legitimately good. I'm not sure that was necessarily a flash in the pan.
Yeah, I think they're good, too. It's just, full-time role, stepping into a starter. Sometimes it doesn't pan out. Right? Going from that limited to full-time role, I think it will in both these cases here. I'm just saying. There's always them. I'm trying to think of a player example. I can't really think of one off the top of my head right now, but I'm sure there's a couple. But Trotter interests me as well. It'll be cool seeing him on the field. I just hope he's not going to be Nakobe Dean, and we can't expect him to be Nakobe Dean because those are quite hefty shoes to fill.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see how he does in starting the season.
Yeah, and I mean, I think another area that we haven't really talked about as in depth, I know we touched on it briefly yesterday, is that other edge role. I mean, obviously Jalix Hunt has one locked up, Nolan Smith Jr. the other, but you got Azeez Ojulari. How much of a role is he going to play? Uche, how much of a role is he going to play? I said Jahad Campbell's going to start off and as a linebacker. But those, seeing if you get anything out of those two guys, because they were two, I think you and I talked about at the time, super low risk. I thought Uche had a pretty high ceiling as far as what he could be. For the most part, we know who Azeez Ojulari is, which, at his best is a productive player. But I'm curious to see if either one of those guys are going to become this year's Jalix Hunt, because you really like to have a third edge that you can kind of rotate in and not lose your pass rush.
Yeah, and that's what those guys, were known to do coming into Philadelphia, get after the passer. So they got them on good deals, no comp picks involved, which is always a great thing because, the Eagles are going to get a Brinks truck filled with them next year.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see, but if it doesn't pan out, I know I mentioned it's hard to trade for a corner midseason. It's less hard to trade for an edge because those guys typically become available. We see high-profile ones like Micah Parsons get dealt. Like, you don't see high-profile corners get dealt all that often, ever. But edge rusher always seems to come around. I'm not saying they're going to go out and get a high-profile guy, but we've seen guys like Za'Darius Smith get acquired by the Lions midseason. I believe it was 2 years ago. Make an impact. So there's always going to be guys out there that will be able to be a serviceable third edge if, it doesn't pan out with either of these guys. But I'm expecting they'll be average and, suitable for third and fourth edge rushers.
Yeah, I mean, and just hope somebody shows a flash at some point. But to your point, yeah, just, as long as there's not a dramatic drop-off. And we were spoiled for so long. I mean, last year you figure, you're your edge rotating in was BG, like, which is a pretty great place to be. Now this year he's gone. Most of the old guard is gone, so it's time for the young guys to step up. But I do think, it's tricky to talk about, the keys to victory for this one, because it just feels like the only team that can beat the Eagles in this one is the Eagles. I mean, they're just so much more talented than Dallas. Is there, other than, attacking Adoree Jackson, is there something you're worried about on the Dallas side of things that they could be a problem?
Not really, honestly. I mean, the run game is non-existent for them. They have kind of a mishmash backfield, Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue. Like, they don't really have like a top end guy there, unless Javonte's fully healed and shows, his UNC tape, which it's probably not going to happen this late into his career. So I'm not really concerned about anything on the Dallas end. I mean, maybe if they put CeeDee Lamb right on Adoree Jackson, then we have big concerns, but this is the keys to victory is just show up and don't turn the ball over. Like, those are the two keys to victory, because you can't squander opportunities against an inferior team, because if they just go out and play no turnover ball, this is probably a 2-touchdown victory pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm with you. What's nice is when the Eagles make it this easy and there's very little negative storyline surrounding the team, it lets us kind of get into some side topics without having to spend the full half hour worrying about the next game. And what's up?
They're gonna have to show up though, because the next games after that are the Chiefs, Rams, Bucks, Broncos. It's a brutal 4-week stretch.
Yeah, well, you said you got to win the easy ones, and in reference to our schedule, Dallas is an easy one, and in comparison to those other games you mentioned. What's not going to be easy, or what wasn't going to be easy, I should say, was getting to the link. I saw something that I had to wipe my eyes because I wasn't sure if it was real, but it was the official Eagles page and the Lincoln Financial Field Twitter page encouraging Eagle fans to please not tailgate, as it will slow down the already disastrous process of trying to get into Lincoln Financial Field and sports complex. Reason being, I don't know how many people are familiar or keep up with this kind of thing, but as part of SEPTA's cuts in August, the express trains that used to leave the sports complex and run straight through are no more, or SEPTA had stopped funding them. So there would be half the trains leaving the complex, which means half the people, doubling the amount of cars. It was going to be a complete clusterfuck. What's weird about it, and what no one saw coming, was today FanDuel came out of left field, and they will be sponsoring the night on SEPTA's Broad Street Line Express. So, where SEPTA failed, where Philadelphia City Hall failed, where the state of Pennsylvania failed, FanDuel all of a sudden came in and decided to save the day. So, if you play a 10-game parlay and somebody accuses you of having a gambling problem, or say that, hey, you need to call the number, you have a very legitimate retort in saying, hey, I'm just supporting local infrastructure.
You know how the PA Lottery says supporting older Pennsylvanians every day? This is what it feels like when I really lose a wager on FanDuel.
That's a really good way to put it. I don't know what that means. I do know riders ride for free, which is pretty sick. How FanDuel found out about the inner workings of SEPTA is beyond me, but I'm so glad that they did. It is kind of a tough look, I think, for the Eagles to a degree. I didn't think of it this way until somebody pointed it out on Twitter. But it only cost FanDuel $80,000, which, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know it says only an $80,000 is weird, but for the size of FanDuel, that's pocket change. So it kind of lends yourself to wonder, like, this is the day before the game. FanDuel stepped in and did it. I would have thought the Eagles would have. $80,000? Home opener? Super Bowl?
I don't know. Maybe they were planning to do it day of and just be like surprised, and then FanDuel said, "Yep, cut the line."
I hope that's the case, because the Eagles do everything first class. I mean, this is not Jeffrey Lurie is the best owner in sports, in my opinion. That's part of the reason it feels weird, because it feels like something they would do,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just glad that somebody did it.
I think FanDuel cut the line. Maybe that's what I'm going to cope with, but it feels like FanDuel just jumped in front of the Eagles the Eagles were going to make the announcement day of, say, hey, tailgate's on, surprise. Like,
and hey, I hope you're right. That would be cool. And I'm hoping, that does, again, also sound like something that they would do. So maybe that's the case and FanDuel jumped in and this is a whole lot of nothing. But it'll be a problem whenever we come back home. But it is kind of neat that FanDuel bailed the city of Philadelphia out because people are going to tailgate no matter what. I mean, a written statement was not going to keep tailgaters out of the lots.
No, they could try all they want, but it's not going to happen. Not in Philadelphia. They'll be tailgating over at, what's it called now? Xfinity Arena, is that what it's called?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. So the Wells Fargo Center is now the Xfinity Mobile Arena, but Xfinity Live is becoming Stateside Live.
Really?
Yeah, Stateside Vodka bought the naming rights.
I thought they were just going to both be under Xfinity. That's news to me. I missed that one.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on over there. But anyway, so speaking of, and this does tie into stadiums in a way. For one, if you're not listening to Pablo Torre's podcast, I cannot recommend highly enough that you do it. If the people who are listening to this podcast right now were to log off and go, well, listen to that, I wouldn't be offended. It is the best sports journalism pod going right now. But their latest story was fascinating. Are you caught up? I know you texted me Kawhi ? Are you pretty much caught up with what's been going on?
I said Kawhi LOL with the big caps because I couldn't believe it when I read it.
Yeah. So the Spark Notes version is that Steve Ballmer is in business with a company called Aspiration. Aspiration is essentially a company that helps businesses, organizations, governments, etc., go carbon neutral. Why that's important is they hired Kawhi Leonard to be an endorser of the company to the tune of $28 million. Problem with that is Kawhi has never posted about, appeared, spoken about, signed, written, liked, or retweeted anything in regards to Aspirations. That company is now going under. And when that happens, a lot of files become public. So Pablo Torre did some capital J journalism and found a stack of documents that include payments to K2 Aspire LLC, Kawhi Leonard, his number 2 LLC, and then Aspire, obviously, to the tune of $28 million. They also found in that contract that he does not have to do any of the deliverables that, quote, conflict with his beliefs. So if they said, hey, Kawhi, we need you to sign 50 basketballs for charity, I don't believe in charity. Doesn't have to do it. What the roundabout way about this is Kawhi has a no-show job with this company. And it appears as though Steve Ballmer set it up so that they could pay Kawhi more than the max to stay without going over the luxury tax or without, having to cut other salary to make it work, which is a huge problem because, one, he's the 6th richest man in the world. So the only way that the only way other teams can compete fairly is if there's a salary cap. 2, labor-wise is a problem in California because he is being paid more than he is contractually obligated to be paid. So he's getting $28 million in essence under the table, which is a huge problem, and the SEC very much frowns on that. So within a sports context, it's bad. It's several firsts, which the Clippers don't have. It could be all the way up to a multi-year suspension of Steve Ballmer as the owner. That is discounting the legal side of things, which is going to be a whole separate set of proceedings.
It's did you see the tweet today that they tweeted out a while ago? It was like Aspire spokesperson Kawhi Leonard. You click on the ad and it's some like random girl.
Yeah, the profile doesn't. Yeah, I saw that. It doesn't link you to Aspire.
It's absolutely bananas. I mean, shout out Pablo Torre, who's been on a Barry Bonds run ever since Bill Simmons called him a fake journalist. He's been on a Barry Bonds good. 03 run. It's been absolutely insane. But it's like a bigger problem for sports in general. And I don't know if you saw this after it got announced, everyone just quickly turned and reposted the Brunson article and turned their eyes at Jalen Brunson. Like,
yeah,
they're like, this could open a bigger bag of worms for everyone involved because sure, he took the contract discount to get his teammates paid, but it really raises some eyebrows because maybe he's getting that money elsewhere. You never know. I'm not saying that it is, but a lot of people quickly speculated to that contract because it was the most recent one signed where there was a big amount of money just left on the table. That's what it's referencing. Like LeBron doesn't even do this. LeBron just takes the max, makes his endorsements, and goes on with his day. But
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think people remember how big Kawhi's free agency was. Like I don't know if people remember that because it was long ago, before COVID. It was insane.
It would have been
Paul George came with him.
Yeah. No, this was when he signed his extension.
Oh, this is when he signed extension? That's my bad then.
Yeah, it was 21.
I thought it because there were reports coming out today that Kawhi was talking to the owner of the Raptors that he wanted an extra $15 million endorsement. So that's why I thought it was the first contract. But Adam Silver caught on to that one and said, no, that's not very legal of you. And the Raptors owner stopped, and then it looks like Steve Ballmer got away with it and paid him under the table.
Yeah, so at least that's entirely possible, and they were investigated for that, which this will definitely reopen that investigation. This one in particular, when he re-signed in 21, what would have made sense for him to do would be to sign a 2-year extension at the max and then sign another free agent deal in his prime. Or if he felt as though he only had one more big contract left in him, take the longest extension possible at that time and get your payday now. What was bizarre was that he elected to sign a 4-year extension, which would then leave him old enough to not get another max deal most likely, but also not take the longest extension possible in the moment. And initially it looked like he did Steve Ballmer a favor as far as roster building goes. Now it's coming to light. He signed that extension in the fall of 21. But then when you look at when he set up K2 Aspire LLC, it was the following fall, a month before the payments started coming from Aspirations to his LLC. So it lines up very conveniently. And it would appear that he took a less aggressive extension and was repaid in the form of a $28 million no-show job, paid out $7 million a year. Now, what was interesting was Pablo Torre was able to get people at the company to flip and talk to him because the company's going under. They're under investigation, something separate. There's so many fraudulent documents that they got caught with where they were, they were falsifying orders of money coming in that was never really coming in. Like they said that they got the Qatar job to make the World Cup carbon neutral. They did not. So investors invested X amount of money based on how big this company was supposed to be. They never got that job. So they're fraudulent in other ways, already getting investigated. So now employees are jumping ship and they're talking to Pablo Torre. And what this guy said was at a time when they could pay almost none of their vendors. Their bills weren't getting paid. They were insolvent. They did not have money. Every single month, Kawhi Leonard would get paid. He would sometimes be the only vendor who was paid. And this guy in particular was fielding calls. If you remember, Uncle Dennis, Kawhi Leonard's uncle, who seems to be very involved in his business transactions, was calling monthly. Where's our money? Where's our money? Make sure we get our money. We need to be paid in full. And at times he was the only one being paid. So it certainly appears as though his contract was of the utmost importance for this company, which is bizarre because one, he was an endorser, which is important, but doesn't feel like CEO importance. And two, he wasn't actually endorsing anything.
Yeah, there's a fine line, and obviously the last team to break that was the Timberwolves, and of course, I believe that was during the KG era, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It might have been a little before. But they've just now recovered from that with Anthony Edwards. Like drafting Anthony Edwards was the only thing that righted the ship for them. They were still feeling the fallout. But what are they going to do though? They're going to suspend Ballmer. It feels like the only choice because they can't take their picks because the picks are owed out to the Thunder and the Sixers for like the next 15 years. It feels like because the Paul George trade they took the whole haul, and it's kind of funny that the Thunder won a ring before the Clippers did after that whole big trade. But it's just baffling to me where this will all lead to. I can't really say because we were like 5-6 this last time this happened.
Yeah, the The worst thing that they can do, and Adam Silver outlined it the last time they were investigated, was the harshest penalty that they could think of that they would realistically be able to do would be to void that contract. That is the nuclear option here, which I don't think they'll do, but it is within their power to void Kawhi Leonard's contract because it is fraudulent. More than likely, what's going to wind up happening is going to be an enormous fine. To your point, I don't know how they handle the draft picks because they don't have any valuable draft picks to take away unless you just extended that further. I know the term 5 years is being floated around, so even once they get their own picks back, you could take the next 5. I'm not sure what that looks like, but the punishment's also going to be unique just because they don't have anything of value. Like, there's nothing to take.
Look, there's one thing that's super valuable they could take, but I don't think they're going to do it.
What, Kawhi?
No, couldn't you just take the team out of the playoffs? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can't, but
in college sports you can do a postseason.
You do it in college, not the pros. I'm saying that feels like the one thing because Kawhi doesn't play that many games anyway. I'm not saying they should or they will. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility because that kind of money, a big fine to Steve Ballmer, that's nothing. Like that's
what I'm saying. It's hard to punish them.
It's hard to punish them. I think they're a dark horse championship contender with the moves they made in the offseason. John Collins, CB3 back on a 1-year deal, Bradley Beal off the bench. Like they made some moves this offseason. I think they're legitimate and tight contenders if Harden and Kawhi are on the court. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, now there is precedent, if you remember, how Steve Ballmer came to own the Clippers was that the last guy was forced out, and it wasn't the league. It was, the owners had to get behind it, and they did, and they forced him out. I can't think of a group of people more motivated to punish Steve Ballmer to the nth degree than the other owners, because nobody could possibly do what he's doing. Nobody can go stack for stack with Steve Ballmer. So I'm very curious to see how the other owners view this and if that's on the table, if him losing the franchise is possible. That would be the most painful form of punishment I can imagine, because if you remember, he privately financed the Intuit Dome. That would be a multi-billion-dollar sunk cost.
That's absolutely insane. I mean, the new stadium is nice, and it's so unique though because it doesn't seem like the Grizzlies or they just got a bunch of first round picks. Like you could just strip them of their next 5 first, give them a little slap on the wrist fine, and be done with it. Like the league has to get creative here. I don't know what they're gonna.
Me either. I'm very interested to find out. I was talking to a coworker today, and we'll end on this one. But the last time the Sixers screwed up, if you remember correctly, we were handcuffed with a Colangelo for the next several years. I think that would be the most fair way to punish the Clippers, would be to force Brian Colangelo to run the franchise for the next 5 seasons.
I'm here for it. I mean, James Harden would be traded to God knows where.
Yep.
Kawhi's contract would probably get voided because of Colangelo, not because of this whole thing.
He is a human ball and chain. He was a human anchor. That if you put him on the Clippers, that is the worst thing you could do for that franchise. And I've actually talked myself into it. So Brian Colangelo, pack your bags. You're going to LA. We have another mission.
I mean, if you think about it, Oklahoma City and Philadelphia, who are still owed paid out picks by the Clippers, have to be like licking their chops right now, right?
Oh, yeah, because everybody, if they hurt this team in the short term, those picks are about to be fantastic. But how do they do it? It'll be. I
don't know how they do it because you can't say, we're taking away your draft picks and then screw over the 76ers and the Thunder. Like,
no, they couldn't. Although honestly, with the way things are going,
lucky you, we're taking those.
That'd be so fucked up. But anyway, 35 minutes later, we are now less than 23 hours away from Eagles football, and we spent 10 of it talking about Kawhi Leonard getting paid with a no-show job, which I think was beyond worth it still.
It was such a big story. Like we're running pure here, as the betting community likes to say. We're getting content the day we decided. We were like, I texted you last night. We're like, let's do this on Wednesday, and then boom, content today. Last week, the Micah Parsons trade.
Yeah.
We're just running hot with news. So
We are on an absolute heater over here, and I'm hoping that our favorite team follows suit, runs right over Dallas tomorrow. Regardless of what happens, we will be here next Thursday breaking it all down, as always. But for this Thursday, I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. Go Birds.